we'll start off with the positives, and then I'll pass it around to each um, combined team, armor, etc. For feedback before I let anybody give any general feedback. So first of all, first time in OP BHB history as a team we were able to field more than not only 50 but more than 50 with reserves in case. Yes, this was an internal, this is practice, but still that's a really big achievement for our team. Really proud of our team and the progress that we've made. Result, everyone always wants to win. I don't think that anyone would disagree with that. However, I don't think that a 2-3 result against the team that we faced was a bad result for us. On average, those guys had, 10 more competitive scrims or games over us than our roster. So we stood real tall against a team with a lot more experience than us. And I think a lot of the feedback and stuff today, hopefully, is going to be constructive to the point where people with more experience are able to help maybe some of the newer guys that got some experience this match and say, hey, this was good. In the future, let's try to do it this way. Because I really think we're just a little bit more experience away from that going from a 2-3 to maybe a 3-2. Um, with that being said, I'm going to open it up to Aliran first. Aliran was our commander. And if you have any feedback, general. I read all of your AARs that you submitted, but if there's anything that you want to say, you have the floor. All right. Aliran's muted. Let's move on to
Oh, sorry.
all good. Yep.
I was on mute. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're all good. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, go ahead, Aliran.
So I think we did good. Overall, I think we pressured them. We almost had them we had them at 4-1 one point, and if we could have stabilized there, we would have easily kept them off and won the game. Um, I think there's a lot of good lessons learned out of this, both off the things we did well and out of the things we did not so well. And I know that was my first competitive commander, so I have a lot to learn. And I thank you guys for sticking with me and keeping it up, and for the good effort throughout the whole time. We could have easily given up, got tilted, but we didn't. And I think we did a good job overall.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Aliran, and I want to echo. I think you did a great job. I think you were down on yourself after the match ended, but I think you did a pretty good job for your first time commanding. And if that's a role that you like, we'll work with you and give you feedback on how you can improve. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm always down. All right. Armor next. We have some armor players in here. If you guys have any specifics that you want to talk about.
Um, on a map like Hurtgen, unless we're sort of, especially as Axis, like we can't really affect the middle point a whole lot at Siegfried. And once it was salient, like we're kind of just stuck in the forest. So sort of my big takeaway is like, if I had just like been spawning Luxes for my crew and just like, sort of blasting around in the north, maybe going south, I feel like I would have been much more flexible in my decision making. Um, but I mean, that being said, like we did just sort of sit in a tiger and farm infantry to the north, so that was extremely useful. Like we helped defend Siegfried from the north, like pretty strong.
Mhm. Yeah, I know it's tough. I read your AR. You said it's very difficult to maneuver on that map as well, and I'm sure the Tiger didn't help with the maneuverability as well.
With that maneuverability, I would suggest like if we can get, especially on Hurtgen, a lot more like AT mines. So we
Mhm.
got pretty good coverage up in the very north section. But like for our guys that were kind of assaulting behind the enemy lines to occasionally just drop a mine or two here and there. that would restrict their movement a lot.
Yeah, especially in the Stewart, because it will one-shot a Stewart.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think we'll touch on Assault's feedback here, but I know Assault was able to get a few tanks before they even got even close to the game. But we can let them talk about it. Let me read the feedback from Cheese. Cheese said, "Died to one tank shooting blinded us, dunked theirs, but Hurtgen Axis blows because AT gun wet dream for the allies." So I think that's a good descriptor. And then for Mars and Ham, I think that tank. Mars, are you actually here? You have any feedback?
Yeah, I'm here. We kept doing like some long pushes to the north. It took up like a third of our game time doing like the PZ4 maneuver to the back. The one takeaway I got is some of the tank marks, and without him here, it's hard to like follow up and see if it was him or what was going on. But we got like 3 different marks pushing that way, and by the time we got there, they were expired, and that might have been us. We were just moving too slowly, trying to maneuver through those trees, not taking their roads right was difficult. So we were a little slow to react to stuff. Like Assault was giving us markers, and we just weren't getting there in time. We managed to finally get to like their lower HQ and take out a 76, but like that was all we did with that Panzer IV maneuver. So we tried to fighting over that third point and fighting around salient. Like Jimbo was saying, it's just a slog. So we were trying to take advantage of a flank, and it just wasn't delivering.
Gotcha.
I want to piggyback on that and say that AT troopers, not even just AT guns, but AT troopers were particularly dangerous and going out of their way to hunt tanks, it seemed like. We were always getting zapped in the back by one of the trigger players there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't think we ever died to a tank. It was always
Their
AT or
satchellers were
we
real
even died.
quick. Yeah,
Yeah,
they.
we even died to a bombing run.
Yeah, we got a direct hit at one point, but I would say that the marks were pretty good. Maybe a bit more, be a bit more specific about what's a gun and what's a tank. But that can always be a little more difficult when everything's going crazy out in Hurtgen, you know.
Yeah.
Faster. I think Jim Bomium's right. I think lighter, faster is probably the way to go on this map. But
Gotcha. That makes sense. Wow, Madcap. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Core lost today against the alliance of TL 116th and 82nd Airborne 3-2 on Hurtgen. 90 minutes.
Wild.
All right. Sorry, distraction.
it's funny when you're not playing Sam Marie Dumont all the time.
Yep. Yeah, good feedback, guys. And I think that as OP and BHB are able to get more experience, especially for you armor guys, because I know Jimbonium, I know Galrock, like you guys get fucked a lot of the times with a spree. Those tankers die so frequently that you guys kind of get stuck in lighter tanks, but maybe that's something that we explore with a map like this, where maybe we have a designated tank that is, or 2 designated tanks that are the almost like front line holders on Hurtgen, and then, you know, if Jimbo wanted to, like, he's the Luke's that's trying to sweep, or, you know, whatever the case is, that's definitely something we can talk about and maybe try out in a future scrim, especially on this map in particular.
Because the one time we took a recon car, we just sort of stumbled upon their northern launch carry and took it out.
Oh,
And
nice.
Like, we can farm infantry all day, but if they're still spawning, like...
Yeah, then it doesn't matter. Yep. Yeah, definitely makes sense. Yeah, great feedback, guys. All right, next is recon. I'll lump counter recon in here as well. So Blurg, DB, Word is not here. Any feedback or anything that you guys have?
Anybody else want to go, or I can go? Yeah. So we were talking about it afterwards. I think we did it. We did a decent job. In the beginning. I think before they kind of figured out what our, what our ideas were in terms of defense. I think once they split into really 4 individual components. So they were coming from due north, due south, northwest, and southwest. So that just started getting real sketchy. I think one thing that we could do is use wire to kind of close down some avenues of approach. I think that was the biggest thing that we didn't do. I know it's kind of tough to figure out where exactly that wire should go. But if you can funnel them in to some kind of fire zones, it would be a little bit easier. Because we were trying to fight them from all different sides, and the arty guys got pulled in, and so that quieted our guns down for a considerable period of time, which is tough, right? But it was
and for in response to that, I want to apologize because I wanted to get a better artillery defense plan, but it was my girlfriend's last day of her semester, and then she goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, people are coming over." So that was 3 hours that I was gonna work on arty defense. So I know it's not one person's responsibility to do it, but it is something I was planning on doing it. And sorry for
it's no worries
not
at
giving
all.
you guys a plan.
No, I was looking at it beforehand, trying to figure some stuff out. But again, that's a huge area to defend. It's not a great thing, right?
And that's one
it's
of the
really tough.
hardest artillery set to defend. So
yeah, bringing the Lux out was a killer idea. I know Arby's brought that out, and he was getting some really good hits with that. They were forced to bring in the AT stuff, so I think that threw them off a little bit. But overall, I think it was good. Communication was fine. We were able to kind of transition onto Discord, which was nice. Some of the arty guys hopped over to our counter arty squad, which is our counter recon squad, which was really helpful. But overall, it was good, but a huge learning experience for myself, for sure.
yeah, and that's the biggest thing with these games, is want everyone to be learning from them. DB, any feedback from you?
Besides the fact that it was the first time that we have played that way with those people, I think it went fairly good. It's just going to take more time. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I know Leaps had trouble with comms, and Leaps feedback was comms were an issue. We'll talk about that general things at the end, but he said that also you guys had success when you guys were pushing in from opposite angles. He said that maybe you guys had played it a little too slow, like at certain points. So that's something that, as you and Off Duty Dad get more experience, maybe you'll, like, I guess, identify. And recon's tough, especially you were going up against some good counter recon players. It's tough to know when to kind of push and when to play it slow, and that's just something that will come with more experience.
Yeah, so for the comms, it was just his command chat just kept going, so he switched to Discord. But as far as their arty defense, I mean, they had arty defense out to the 1-2 line.
Yeah.
And there was like 4 or 5 guys creeping around there, and so by the time we set off their OP, we were getting smoked anyway. So yeah, we were pretty slow at first, but after about 30 minutes, there's only like 2 or 3 of them roaming then. So yeah. It was okay. I'm not mad at it.
I would say I know for comms towards the end of the game, the arty guys were trying to use command chat to talk to the defense before we actually got into the separate Discord call. So
Gotcha.
that's probably part of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Don't it's all good. We'll figure out ways that we can mitigate that. All right.
That's
Next.
a very that was just a very difficult spot that Artie is.
Yeah, that is a very defensible artillery position. They have the built-in sandbags as well as any defenses that they build, so it makes it even harder. All right. Combined team 1. Any feedback from
I
you
think I'll be
fellas?
talking for Diz. I got actually quite a bit to cover, so bear with me.
Yep. Yeah. No rush.
First off, considering 60 to 70% of our team has minimal to no competitive experience. Going up against a team that pretty much everybody on that other side has a good bit of competitive experience. We did better than I thought we were going to do. I was pleasantly surprised with how well things went. But there's a lot of room for improvement. And this is just going to be growing pains as people learn, uh, just get a feel for what's going on under these conditions against this type of opponent. You read maps differently. Just knowing what to expect, and a lot of people don't. Learning to respond to certain things in certain ways. Uh, we don't even have anybody that has command experience in the competitive setting because of all the stuff since we've been with ESPT, they have run the commander role on all the matches. So we don't even have guys that have that kind of experience. A couple of them do from back in the NPA days, but that's we're talking a good while ago. I did read some of Don Weiss's comments with assault. I know we split it into like assault and assault flex. Uh, we need to learn to manage that a little bit better, and that's also with the commander seeing these things and calling it out. Like he was saying, you know, if we have to pull off, then we're on our back foot. Um, After we lost Siegfried, we were on our back foot, and we stayed that way. The CT1 up north, uh, we were hard pressed with the woods. Now, at a time I called out, at one point I called out that they were spawning up around Jacobs, and we were trying to clear that out. We can't push forward until we get that clear because they're just constantly pressing into our flank. Um, it's a point where we've only before this seasonal we were running 3 combined teams, and we did not have an assault. You know, there was a middle, left, and right, and we worked that in waves as the fight wore on, where you would push, then you would envelop and move on. We've reduced that to 2 combined teams, where we have to as well be responsible for the middle, and then you've got an assault team which is not meant to spend all its time in the enemy zones. If the combined teams have the forward line, then yes. But we also have to realize that an assault team needs to be able to flex to positions where we need to take territory to allow the CT teams to breathe. Um, I didn't look at any replay, so I'm not sure what CT2 was dealing with in the south. I imagine it was pretty hot because we were dealing with the same thing up north, but we couldn't break out. At times like that, the CT team needs, or the assault team needs to be able to flex in, like clear that, come in from a different angle, clear Jacobs, and then we can all move forward. Whether it's just a couple guys from assault or the assault flex team, but that will allow us to break out, which is what we could not do. We would get up to the front, but we're still trying to deal with guys on our own flanks. I sent Joe up there once or twice to clear Jacobs. And being able to see these things and manage it in game is just going to be part of our growing experience, and being able to see that the commander saying, okay, you need to do this, you know, flex needs to do this, or one of the combined teams just simply calling, you know, assault flex to come clear that area. uh, but that will come with time as everybody gets experience with these sort of details. We had a lot of trouble with losing backline garrisons. Um, you're trying to push forward, but we're constantly having to jump back to clear things. That should be the realm of the defensive probes, and part of defensive main. There was a time the garrison right behind salient was pinging, and nobody was responding. And then it goes red, no one's still responding, and then we lose it, and then we had only 1 or 2 garrisons left on the map and no real quick way back into salient. I spawned in, I saw it ping, saw it go red. I'm still waiting to spawn. By the time I get spawned in, I'm trying to get back down there, and no one else has responded. Those things to me jumped on immediately. We can't just sit there and wait and lose garrisons like that, especially that close to the point. But then again, that's inexperience with these new positions, new players, and all that stuff will come in time. But we have to address that, realize that, certain things need to be reacted to immediately. Um,
Sorry, Infidel, are you talking about the garrison in H8 that we could see on the map right there? Or
that's
in
that's the one in
I8?
question I was talking about. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that. Like, I was defensive probe in that quadrant, and I was calling out, every time I was pinging. That garrison did go down once.
I think it's not about identifying, because that is primarily that's being called out in defense Discord, right? But the problem is it went down, and that is your responsibility. Now, calling it out is great for in the Discord and stuff like that. However, that is, if that goes down, then that's your responsibility to get it back up as that
And
defensive
yes,
probe.
and we
It's
did,
not just
right?
calling it out, it's reacting to it. What I'm saying is
Yeah,
it
exactly.
pinged and it pinged for a while, then it went red. I saw guys on the point around it. No one reacted, moved to it, tried to clear it or nothing. And it was it was pinging or red for 60 to 90 seconds before it went down. Um, and there were guys close enough that could have responded and saved that garrison. It didn't happen, and these things happen. I'm just pointing it out that those are the things we need to be more aware of and to react more quickly to, especially something that close to the strong point. Um, I know things get called out, but it needs to be reacted to. When that goes down, we don't have a spawn there. Someone else has to bring in supplies. Someone else to build it. It's taking people off the line. Um, Had that been reacted to a little faster, we might have saved it, not had to worry about it. I'm just bringing it up because it did happen, and these are the things we need to address, talk about. You grow and learn from it. That's all. That's all I'm saying. It's nobody's. I'm not pointing fingers or naming names. It just happened. But this is what we have to watch, review, learn from, and get better at. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically all the points that you made are things that I was going to address here in a minute as well. When I called for combined team 2, was that it? Because I had similar feelings, and I can actually touch on some of those times where you're seeing what combined team was doing, etc.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think a lot of the points you made are, again, pretty much exactly what I was going to say. Um, I think that the front line was something, and I talked to Darkon for a while yesterday about it, and I think that with the absence of that third combined team, and anyone that's played competitive before this seasonal where we've made that change knows how the combined teams used to work. I think that there were a couple of times actually where I know myself, I called for specifically this garrison in G6 where I know the call was made from combined team 1 that they're pushing there. So I remember I called out to Assault and I said, you need to be spawning G6 moving south. I don't know if that did happen, but that's something, again, that just needs to be done better, right? Identifying, hey, we lost 4 OPs in this area as Assault Flex. Let's come back, George 6, take our killers and sweep through this area specifically. Like Infidel said, Assault Flex should never be on an island by itself. It shouldn't be the only end all be all attacking force. Assault Flex is what's paving the way for the combined teams to push forward. They're the ones that are coming in, getting the 4 kills, right? Finding an OP, and then allowing the combined teams to get that 50, 60 meter push that they need to do. Their OPs get pushed up 50, 60 meters. Defense can move up 50, 60 meters, and our front line just gets pushed forward. I think that was something that definitely could have been done better. Again, learning experience. I think Galbers and Don Weiss both did a really good job, especially Don Weiss, not the most squad lead experience for the last, 2 years, he said. Galbers is a great up and coming SL that we have that did, I think, a fantastic job with Assault. I think, like Infidel said, those one or two moments of you know, decisiveness that you need to have where it's like, okay, somebody called it out. Let's take it on ourselves to assist, whatever the case is. And I know Dark Times, I'll give you an opportunity to talk here in a minute, but we had a really rough go of things in the South. For a while, we were fighting their entire combined team 2 and fighting their assault squad. Specifically, when we did cap culture, you and I spawned in Echo 6. I moved south. Joe got me supplies here. I got that garrison up. And then I was trying to pinch out Assault and Combined Team 2 that were here. There was a tank in Echo 8, Numpad 3. And Dark Times and I just couldn't get together. One thing that did happen there was somebody was pinging an OP that was 30 meters away from us. If you're ever in a situation where there's an OP within 50 meters, that is grenade range. Grenade range maximum is 50 meters when you're sprinting. There's no need to ping it if you have a grenade. Just fucking toss it and move on. It'll be all right. Just another learning experience. But I know Assault Flex really had that area down, and then Combined Team 2 pushed us back up, and they were all down here as well, split between the north and down here. So that was tough. One thing that we identified, and I spoke to Darkon with, is when this front line is here, like this is where our defensive OPs are. Do you see that? There's not a single defense OP, defensive main OP in the George column. That's where we really need defense to kind of push up and fill the gap between Combined Team 2 and Combined Team 1. I felt it was very difficult for Combined Team 2 to release because, if we did get pushed here, right, and we made it plenty of times into these two areas, we had no backup because defense was still in the H column. And, at that point, when Combined Team 1 and Combined Team 2 are pushing and expanding, you need to fill those gaps, right? Even if it's adjusting and maybe Combined Team 1 needs a little bit more help. Maybe Combined Team 2 needs a little bit more help, right? Adjusting those OPs and pushing that front line forward is something that I think is not just the responsibility of the combined teams, but like Infidel was saying, the responsibility of Assault to come down and help and defense to kind of flex forward and fill in those gaps. And again, I don't think that defense did a terrible job. I don't think that Assault did a terrible job. I think it's just those little optimizations that we can make, those slight positioning adjustments, those slight maybe ground that we can take and push up that little bit more, and that will really kind of shore up our front line. You can't have a flank if you don't have a front line. You can't have Assault on an island by itself if there's no front line to put pressure on. I'll just echo what Infidel said as well, in that I was pleasantly surprised as well with how well a lot of our guys played. Not that we don't have confidence in you, it's just we're up against an opponent with drastically more competitive experience. But I think other than the comms in the beginning of the game, which nerves, excitement, etc., other than that, I think we did a fairly good job of communicating and trying to work together. It's just a couple calls, like Infidel said, where somebody said, "Hey, we need this." It just didn't happen, and that's okay. It's a learning experience, and it's things that us as a team, OP and BHB, are going to get better at. Dark Times, do you have anything to add for Combined Team 2?
I do. It's just a really quick thing. I'll let you say the most of it because I'm not home at the moment. I'm on mobile.
Yep.
But I will say that for our time down in GH H8, where we were trying to push the trench line where they had their spawn at, I know I was super isolated and really could use some kind of secondary line of support to help push out. because we had their, we kind of had them boxed in. They really couldn't advance out on us. But at that time, I was talking with Leon about it after the match. It's kind of a situation of, with Salient, you either need to decide, are you defending north or defending south? And if we're going to box them on the edge of the map, but they were definitely north. So if we wanted to try to force them to the south of the map, it's something we could have done, because I know that at one point I know both you and I decided to shift north, and we were able to actually walk into G7, H7, and get into that trench line, pull a couple OPs, and we're able to start to actually get into Siegfried. So that's just all I really had to say.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. And again, I think, like I was saying, if there was that defense that moved up, or if Assault Flex was able to punch through with us, I think it would have been a big difference. And I don't know if that's something I needed to do better at vocalizing. I need to fully watch it back, but I know that there were calls made by either you or me for help that maybe could have been answered a little faster. But again, all learning experience, and I think we did a really good job, all things considered. Anybody else from Combined Team 2 with any feedback? All right. Let's move on to Assault.
Yeah, so this was my first time ever being slotted Assault in any capacity, and I know Don hasn't had a lot of squad leader reps either, but he is an Assault dude. So a lot of good learning feedback there. Appreciate it. We did actually, in the map that I'm looking at now, we did eventually. So where my outpost is, I'm Fox there, and we had a garrison in the trench line to the north in Fox 3, and then we were boxed in behind. They had one in that front line too. So when we got that call, we did get we did attempt to work down that southern line. We just got our ass kicked. So like that, I mean, that's going to happen sometimes. So eventually we did move down that Fox column and cleared 3 garrisons and some outposts on the way, and then went and reestablished the north. That was toward the end of the game. We did spend most of our time trying to clear out basically the 6 row. Pulled a couple garrisons there. Aliran had a wide flank up there, those supplies in Fox 3, which eventually we got down and were able to then get behind that push, and that's what allowed us to clear. And by the end of the game, then we had pushed into the 7 row, where we had that last gasp that we ended up pushing through. So yeah, once we lost Siegfried, though, it was kind of a, we are desperately trying to hold that northern. So, in my head, when I'm reading the map there, I'm trying to push my assault outposts into E6, and then we just kind of squeeze it down with combined teams in the south, and then us pushing in from the north. Obviously, that line didn't hold, so we had to, try to reset that plan a few times. Off the jump, we didn't have hardly anything up in the north. We basically, we got some killers. So Dahmer and Don basically just killed their first push up there in the north, and we walked straight up into Paul Trail, took that garrison in E6 right at the front door, and then I had Don switch north to take out the radar tower. We walked in the front door and we got a cap. At this point, I really don't know what happened. You mentioned CT2 spawned that E6 garrison. That was when command chat was pretty bananas. So I guess I want to know what happened once we capped that. And I know you said you tried to push south to clear them out. We felt like we had C, or the 5 row held, and I think they were coming from that compound in C7. So I suppose experience would be helpful here, because I tried to pivot up into B4, and then we lost Call Trail. So I guess
Yeah, I
that's
think
a
what
wrong
happened
move?
was, what I saw is when we capped, almost immediately we had no cap weight anymore. Like Assault almost like moved on. It felt like, and you guys were moving north and west.
Yeah.
I think by the time DU and I spawned on that Echo 6 garrison, we were already like a third or more lost on Call Trail. If that happens, just stay alive and try to, hold things up so that we can clear up to there. I think what happens a lot of the times, and this is what Chelty wrote, and I think that it's something we're guilty at a lot, especially in the Spree alliances. People get greedy. We cap that point, and then it's almost like we released immediately, pushing towards Musback before we even stabilized Call Trail, and we're able to establish that presence again. Like I said, we moved south. I got a garrison up here in Echo 7, and I know DU was moving and clearing back here as well, hoping that the combined teams could meet up with us, and then establish that front line again, where combined team 1 is able to take, dog 5, combined team 2 is able to take dog 6. We're able to clear and then establish a new front line like diagonally here. And I think that it was one of those things where we just didn't have enough time to get everything set up before they capped it back. And maybe that's a mistake on us, right? Maybe we should have, instead of me moving all the way south there and clearing out their assault, maybe I should have just started pushing there. I don't know. Maybe I played it too conservatively. It's something that hindsight's always 2020. I wonder if there's a point that we can see here. We must have we capped with so little cap weight as well. I was shocked.
It was just assault that had
It was
actually
just assault. Yeah, that did.
we had basically blitzed them before they had got set
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, the 9-man pressure of the Lukes and the hard cap is what
Yeah.
started it.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Thank you,
and
guys.
I was so focused because, like I said, oh, here it is. I was getting swamped right here. Fuck, come on, leave the map open for one more second. Like I said, combined team 2 at that point, I was killing Shaka, and like here, see how combined team 2, we just couldn't get together. We couldn't meet in the middle. I removed a garrison here in dog 8, and there were just a couple of outposts here that we just needed to grenade a little bit more, and we just couldn't meet up. I see combined team 1 is up here in Echo 7 trying to push, and maybe we put ourselves on the back foot, right? Maybe I should have made the call to push from here and push into Call Trail. I just know that this was based on who my victim and nemesis were. I got a couple kills. I killed Taka like 2 times down here. He became my victim. And then I think one of the guys from Combined Team 2 killed me 2 times. So I knew that it was two units of theirs down here, and I made the call to try to clear it out. I didn't want to leave defense alone to deal with combined team 2 and their assault, so maybe I should have flexed up here. Instead, it's a tough call to make. I think on Call Trail, let me see if I can get the immediate cap on this stream. I just know that as soon as we capped it, like we started to lose it almost immediately again. And I think the call in command chat was like, stabilize Siegfried and then we'll push. And I think when we tried to stabilize Siegfried, we just let them regain the land that they had taken. Like here's where I took out their garrison, and you can see we have that garrison Echo 7. Maybe I should just shift, have Dark Times shift there, Echo 7, and push north. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that's a tough call. I literally didn't know what happened behind us. That's why I asked, because I just remember capping call and pushing C5, and then they had the counterattack going. So we basically were just setting up for once they recap it, can we get an assault going? And then I got killed once they capped. I was putting an outpost down. I got shot. So,
Gotcha.
I mean, that stuff happens. We spent the rest of the game, like I said, up in the north. A lot of times we identified a ton of spawns, and we're able to get a lot of them. Having Artie down a lot of the game was tough, because then normally you can box that in and then push it. And then we just lost some firefights, to be honest. So
Yeah, against a good team of shooters, it's gonna happen.
I think in a lot of ways the call trail cap was more of a false cap than anything.
Agreed. Yeah.
And if we had treated it like, oh, they're just not going to be in Siegfried, so we can, sort of 100% keep them on the box out, and then sort of set up for an actual take on call trail, I think that might have.
I think that's what we were trying to do when I was clearing this out, and I think that this in particular, it was really fucking hard to kill their. Like I said, I got their garrison with my squad, and then there were just like 4 OPs, and who was spawning off that? Taka, fucking, Wombolo, like all their good shooters were just fucking down there, and it was just us. Just our 7 guys that were trying to get it, and it was 2 squads.
I'm pretty sure that's my tank down there, and I tried to help, but it's like fucking impossible.
It's like you have to just expose yourself.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get side shot from an AT gun at the fucking radar or at ruins or fucking anywhere. So that was
because that's like the main point where fucking every part of the allied map has visual on that spot.
And everyone knows that there's gonna be a tank on that southern bend.
Yep. All right, sorry for that side. Galbers, really good feedback, and thanks for the insight, obviously. Anybody else from Assault have any feedback at all? I read everyone's ARs. I think what Thomer said, I read it. Hopefully, some of the things we talked about with the struggles with the front line make a little bit more sense with why you guys felt like you were on an island. All right, defense main. Like I said, I talked to Darkon for a while. Anybody? Oh, Darkon, you're here.
So I actually am here. I managed to cut away a little time here at work. I overall think we did pretty good. I know the initial in my assessment, and I haven't gone back to look at my video to get the times accurate in this assessment, but I feel like it took about 20 to 25 minutes ish for us to settle in and fully get into the groove of our assignments and knowing where our placements on the map should be. So things were a little chaotic for us at first, at least for me. I don't want to speak for everybody on that feeling, but looking at our placement and how we were reacting to things instead of being able to be on top of them before they hit us in the face, it seemed like that was happening in the beginning of the match and less towards the latter half of it. I know that one thing I want to say is good job. We were pretty active in our Discord channel, and trying not to clutter command chat. I know we had like a couple times where somebody is like, "Oh, this garrison's hot," and then respond.
You just accidentally muted yourself.
My face did it. That's what I get for talking on my phone. I know. Okay, so what I was saying is, I know there were like a couple times where our comms weren't perfectly clear with command chat, and there were a couple times where things that typically are not said in command chat, rather you keep that in Discord. But once that was ironed out, we did a really good job of communicating with each other. I know Infidel mentioned like there was a garrison behind that was pinged, and then it was locked, and then it was gone, and there was no communication about that. I will say, I'll push back against that a little bit. In our defense Discord, like that was an active conversation that was happening, and the timing of it was unfortunate because at the moment that it pinged and went hot, at the moment that it pinged, I know Chief started running towards it, and I know that I saw how far away he was. So I pulled myself away from the strong point area, but had my squad still
in the defense main area and reporting what they saw and all of that. I made a judgment call. I probably should have stayed with them, but I just saw that garrison was in danger. I pulled away. By the time it went down, I was like, okay, well, I'm going back to my job and I'll let Chief handle that. That garrison, if I recall, went hot, pinged, went down. The second one that went up in its place stayed up the rest of the game, partially due to that learning experience of losing it the first time. And that was quick, reactive learning on our part. So kudos to that. I think that was good. Some other areas, I think that probably as like the defense main lead falls on me is our overall placement throughout the game. There were times when I wasn't sure how far forward I should push off. I know that I lacked in a couple areas, a couple moments of general map awareness for where my team is and who is taking care of what. And I found myself feeling a little spread thin. But if I had realized like, oh, there's a tiger up there wiping those guys out to the north, and oh, there's this crew over here wiping these guys out, I think I probably would have felt more settled to just get into a nook and hold that nook and make it ours. So I struggled with that a little bit. I think that got better towards the end of the game. I mean, we helped hold Salient until the end of the game. And I think after that 25-ish minutes at the beginning of the match, the crew did a pretty good job of keeping their OPs alive and keeping any sort of push that was close to Salient out of Salient, barring a couple times they managed to get in after wiping an OP or something. I think Chief, again, is a guy who hasn't been here for a while, and this was his first match back. He did a good job of taking a lot of information and learning and applying it quickly. Where at the beginning of the match, we all were kind of like figuring out what the hell's going on. And then applying those lessons in the moment as opposed to after the game. So I think the result of that is going to be, if we were in that position again, those same issues would be, I don't want to say non-existent because that's speaking extremely highly, but I think that they would be mitigated much better than we did in the moment. And I do agree with most of the assessments of the areas in which we're lacking, but I also would like to say that in the moment, in the fog of that crazy battle, that the defense team did a really good job of applying like, oh, that thing happened. How do I stop that from happening again? And then stepping up to do that. So I think that's all I really wanted to say. I'm trying to think if there was anything else, but yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say is like, I think you guys did a great job, right? Like, we never lost our second point. We never lost our second point. Defense, even though it was shaky one or two times, right? Where I remember Darkin and I fucking just running down here to the south and like clearing, and we're like, all right, they're in this trench, they're in this. Like, we made it work. And yes, there were things that could improve, but like, again, this isn't saying anyone did a terrible job. Oh my god, this is awful. It's more like, hey, these are things that need to be identified and done better. But yeah, you guys did a great job. And again, there's like just little optimizations, for example, like just pushing a little bit further, are things that, like you said, you'll learn and get better from if the situations arise again. Sunlight, any feedback from you?
Sure. I'll start off echoing kind of your point about knowing when to move up and push the lineup. There is a good portion of time when we held the middle point and up to when we captured the next point that I was starting to wonder, should I push up? Because I knew there was still some enemy resistance on the middle point, and I'm worried that that hesitation could have contributed to us not holding the next point. I know in more casual matches, the general line of thinking is the ones who take the point will secure it and defense shouldn't leave until that happens. But in competitive, I know everyone has
It's the same thing. Defense is the last one to leave, whatever point. So good call in staying back there.
Okay. This will also be more of a self-critique, but there were, speaking towards the lack of garrisons at certain points in the game, there is one point that someone asked me to set up a garrison, and I think it was to the south of Salient. When I got there, it kind of looked like there was no cover, and I think there was a little bit of hesitation that hurt us during the game, in that instance and other instances, where it might have helped if I just placed the garrison without really thinking too much about it.
Yeah, and this was your first time squad leading in a competitive scene, was it? Or
Correct.
second? Yeah, so that again, to Infidel's point earlier, that's just going to come with more experience. So don't get too hard on yourself for that, because that just comes with more experience and getting the repetitions and experience in certain positions.
Yeah, I'm sure that hesitation will slowly shrink.
To that point, Sunlight, I thought you did a great job as well, and like the Hell Let Loose structure, just the game by itself. If you're playing pubs, you got commanders and squad leaders and your squads, and there's a command structure, and like with the this comp structure, it's similar. It's like if you're on defense main, you have your main lead and then your assistant lead. I was your main lead, and if you felt like there were times when you were lacking information, or if you didn't have a place to go, like I don't take that lightly. I mean, I know it's just a game, so like I'm not saying I'm beating myself up over it and losing sleep, but like that's an area that I probably could have improved with that as well. Because like we don't want a 7-man squad, half of that squad feeling lost, even if it's just for a couple minutes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you helping me out when you did in the game. This might apply to other people too that were first-time squad leaders, maybe on the reserve as the assistant squad leaders. But there's one time where I noticed my squad actually filled up, and I don't think it was entirely defensive guys.
I know that I sent you some guys at one point when my OP went down. It was down for 3-4 minutes. I was trying to get it back to a spot where I liked it.
Yeah, expect people to free flow through squads, especially, there were a couple times where, and I remember calling it out in Discord, where I said I need all of defense in my squad right now, because when we were losing Siegfried, I got an OP up in the hard point, and it's just, sometimes you utilize an OP to fulfill the role that you're trying to do, even if it's not your squad lead. So that's just people hopping in and trying to hold the ground that they're assigned to. So don't worry about that. That's going to happen frequently with people flopping in and out.
You got a good OP, someone likes it, they're going to come to
Yep.
you. I had knocked with me for a little while, like
Yep. All right. Just because we're pushing an hour, let's get to the last two groups with defensive probes. Chief or Reaver, if you guys have any feedback, questions, concerns, etc.
Sure, I'll go. I'll go first, Reaver.
Yeah, take it.
Yeah, echoing what Darkon was saying in the beginning of the match. First 25 minutes, I was still kind of figuring out my strategy and my exact role on the battlefield. Unfortunately, in that time, I think we've lost one too many garrisons behind Siegfried. But then we learned from that, and that was kind of evident in our defense of Salient, how that one garrison went down only once when we were establishing our defense, but then it stayed up the rest of the game. So that's something, strategy that will be applied in any future matches.
Can I speak back in real quick? There was one point I pulled my map up and I watched, it was either 2 or 3 garrisons ping and then go hot like really fast, like in succession. So there was one point
that'll
where
happen against with the experience that the ranger guys have and their recon slash whammo slash fucking assault. Like that's gonna happen against a team like that.
Yeah. And so like that's really hard to react to because you see one go and your gut reaction is let's go to that one and you're responding to that and then all of a sudden another one goes and you're like, oh god, now we're split, and then all of a sudden another one pings hot and you're like, now you, like when you're going against that level of experience, they find these things and they're very good at hunting them. And so like there were a couple moments where it wasn't even anything that we did wrong, it's just Esprit was like on their game. So keep that in mind too.
I have a question for future games. So, on the map right now, we could see that there's a garrison in FG7 and G8, right? So there were a couple of, moments when one of those garrisons would go down, but there were still, supplies nearby, or maybe the enemy already seen this garrison, so they know where it is. What do you do in that situation? Let's say they already know where this garrison is. Do we try and just keep it up, or do we move it? Or if they take down this garrison, do we place a new one in the exact same spot? Because that's kind of what happened with those two garrisons. They kept going down. We kept putting them up. But the enemy obviously knows they're in that spot,
So
so they keep coming
part
back.
of that is that's a great question. So if you get it back up, right, don't just leave it until it gets hot again. For example, like try to figure out where they're coming from. That may mean as a defensive probe, you have the boring job of sitting there for 20, 30, 45 seconds waiting, seeing, oh hey, they're running from the northwest. Let's backtrack that and track them back to their OP, their whatever it is, because whoever's taking that down, they're coming from somewhere, right? And that's kind of the defensive probe, right? The probe part is, all right, we'll protect this, and then let's fucking find out wherever the fuck they spawn from and shut down that whatever spawn. And
Yeah, that's exactly the strategy we started utilizing, but only after we lost a couple.
and again, you and Reaver are two guys that are not as experienced in the defensive probe role, and as we grow as a team, we just need to, like, there are not enough people with experience that are going to sign up for every scrim to get everyone in a role where they've played multiple times and feel comfortable with. And I could tell you why I put you there is because I think you're a good shooter, and I think that you have a pretty good map awareness, right? And it's a role that, yeah, maybe you weren't the fucking number one defensive probe of all time this game, but I think you learned a lot, and I think you did great. Like what Darkon was saying, you learned and adapted, and it's again echoing Infidel. The more experience that we get, or you get in specific roles, the better you'll be in the future if you get put in that role again. So, uh, I don't want it to seem like we're harping on you or Reaver. Like everything that any of us have been saying have been just constructive and just, hey, this is something we can do better in the future.
Yeah, we were all saying earlier we know this is a really, really good team to go up against. Like personally, I was expecting it to be 4-1 or 5-0. So I was like, wow, we're actually holding ground. So I was like really happy with that.
Yeah, and we fucking, like I said, we stood tall on Salient. We there was a couple times where it was looking shaky, and we fucking regrouped and took it back. And even though the front line wasn't as far forward as we wanted to be in the G column, we still established it, and slowly we're trying to push them back. All right, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Chief, but if you have anything else or Reaver, feel free.
Yeah, I don't know. So I spent a lot of my time up north. I just struggled a lot that game where I ended up, I don't know if it's just that I needed to be a little bit more forthcoming about calling for support, but like I would get into a position, I'd more or less identify where I had bad guys coming from, and I could hold ground. I just couldn't take ground. You know, like I'd identify like, oh, hey, this garrison's hot. I keep seeing them running up this little draw, you know, and like me and Blindwire, we'd try to move on it, and all of a sudden we're getting hit from a flank, you know. So I don't know if like up north, like I said, like I could hold a garrison, I could hold an OP, but I couldn't push off of that to track down spawns, and I think that's a lot of our detriment up north that game, and a lot of why combined team one ended up stuck with us is just like I could, like I said, could hold ground, I couldn't take it back. I think if I had been a little bit quicker to call for support from, you know, like have people roll.
Yeah, if you're in the
into my
Discord
squad.
too, just you can take anyone from defensive main. Just say,
Right.
hey, I need support. Fox
Right.
Squad or whatever.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is I should have been a little quicker to do that, but also at the same time, you know, like I'd open up the map and I'd look at it and, you know, like you said, we were flat to the board a lot that game, and I worried that if I called for help to take away from, you know, like defense main or probe 2 or whatever, you know, that I would have left us more vulnerable in more vulnerable areas. So I hesitated to call for help, and I think that's a lot of why we struggled as bad as we did up north, and why CT1 wasn't ever able to break out, because they ended up hunting a lot of shit with me.
As the probe, and I've done this in comp plenty of times. You're not always asking for help. You've seen this. Okay, they're coming from here. You alert defensive main. Say, all right, we've got a lot of pressure from here. We're holding right now, but we can't advance. Then if you're like, okay, they're spawning through here and coming through there, then defensive main can decide to send more players to you, or you can call for one if you think it's just going to take another guy and you've got it. Or defensive main can say, all right, we can't put anybody there, and they'll get in and say, okay, assault flex, they're spawning here. We need to clean this flank up.
Right.
And that's command chat. But all you've got to do is identify it, and if you can't take it, then let them know. So it's like, we don't have enough here to take this, but it needs to be cleared.
Right.
And on a flank position like that, that's where we had a lot of our trouble. The six row, they were well established above us, and the team cannot push forward until we clean that. And it's what ESPT preaches, and we will be preaching the same thing, is just map control. You can't push forward until you've got your flanks clean, because they're just going to come in right behind you, and
Yeah.
we'll get there.
Yep.
It's it's just going to take time.
I wanna say one thing too is every one of you guys in this channel are people that we think are either good enough to be on the comp team or are on the comp team. We trust you to make that call. If you make a call, right, especially this is practice. If you make that call, right, where you said you're too nervous to do it, make the call, see what happens, right? If it doesn't work out, learn from that. These scrims that I'm gonna be planning, this isn't a seasonal match. This isn't the final, right? Make mistakes. That's the only way you know how to learn. If it works out, great. Now you know, hey, I have that experience. If it's the wrong call, guess what? It happened, and you're not gonna get fucking kicked off the team, right? It's a learning experience. So, for any of you guys, I think one thing that has been echoed from a lot of the guys that haven't had the experience before, try it. And if it doesn't work, or if there's a more experienced member in your squad that is counseling against it, listen to them. Otherwise, give it a try, right? As long as we hold our front line, as long as we have map control, right? Flush out those spawns. Call for that extra supply box. Put that garrison down if you're sunlight, right? Make that call and see what happens, right? This is a great learning opportunity for us. There are less than 30 guys on our OP and BHB team with more than like 5 competitive scrims or matches under their belt. And a lot of us have learned from either making mistakes or making a call and seeing it go well, and in hindsight seeing that it was the correct call. Make the decision, right? Trust your gut. As long as you're fulfilling your role and you're not, just deciding out of nowhere that as defensive main you're going to be, the new assault SL, right? See if it works and see what happens.
Yeah,
And
that's definitely good advice.
if you can, watching these, the AAR, watching the point of views, um, whenever you can, is whoever's streaming them, go back and watch that and look at look at where the enemy are when you're having this moment. This, all right, this is where I was thinking this, and then see where they are. And then well, yeah, I did have the right instincts, or no, that I should have done this. And just by watching that, you can learn a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Great
definitely though, I definitely do think that was my biggest issue and part of why we did struggle so much on the north. Those I was hesitant to call for help, and I think like after having thought about it for a couple days, I think what we could have done is like I could have gotten up there right, and I knew like when they were attacking the F7 garrison, they came at it from the same angle multiple times. I knew where they were coming from. I knew the likely spot. So I think what I should have done is I should have called for the support, gotten a couple of guys in there with me in blind wire, pushed up, cleared it, and then I honestly think if we had cleared their spawns, because they were attacking F7 and they were coming out of G6. They were coming from just south of our G6 garrison. Which felt like a long way, but like we'd kill a couple in F7, right? We'd move up a little bit, we'd see them come again, we'd get shot, forced back to the garrison or our OP. And it was just kind of like a tug of war. So if I'd had a couple more people, we could have pushed in, cleared it, and that honestly probably would have freed up CT1 to get up and help assault with call.
Yeah, and hindsight's 2020, right? You
Right.
learn, and again, I want to just reiterate for the 50th time. I think great job, great learning experience for so many people on our team, especially against a very experienced and seasoned opponent.
Yeah.
All right, just because we've been going for a little over an hour now. Last and certainly not least, artillery. Love your guys' feedback.
Is anyone else here other than me?
I'm here.
Arby's is here.
Yep.
I'm here.
And
Sweet,
Chel's
we're
here,
all
but
here.
go ahead and go first.
All right, so for me helping assault, that's more up to them to decide if I did well, but I'm pretty sure I got quite a few kills, helped them a lot on their way, but overall it was just a slog trying to live through recon and all that, but I think it was good in the end. Did my job well. As for assault, what do you say?
When you were up and active, it was great.
There's your answer, strikeout.
What about you, Chelty?
Yeah, I enjoyed good marks. I enjoyed consistent marks for pretty much the whole game. A lot of good communication from CT2. So I was never without something to do. But it just got to a certain point where Lost and who else was playing recon over there?
Rust. One of our boys was fucking you guys up too. He had like 35 kills.
Yeah. We just started eating shit at one point, and that's a really tough artillery HQ to defend. It's wide open. There's so much tall grass and trees, and it's just we got overwhelmed, I think, and they were extremely patient about punishing us. They wait until we thought the coast was clear, and then as soon as we get near the guns, take us out. So yeah, as like Egg said, as long as we were up, it would seem to be going well. But once we got taken out, we were pretty much out of the game.
Yeah, gotcha. And I think reading through some of the AAR feedback, and Arby's, I'll let you talk here in a second, but I think maybe what we can do is with this flex, right? I don't think we fully utilized it with the assault and then the dedicated flex guys. Maybe that's something we can experiment in a future scrim where those guys are called on and come in and try to hunt the outpost for a minute, 2 minutes, get you guys up, and then go back to wherever they're needed. I think that's something that we can experiment with in the future.
Yeah. So I think we had a really hard time finding their OPs. They were coming at us from multiple directions. I think I definitely brought it up a few times that like we were getting crushed and we probably needed some help, but we don't know back there what necessarily the situation is up at the front line, and
I know you heard me
are
and
you
Dark
guys holding
going
on to the
like,
point by the
yeah.
skin of your nuts, or is it like stable enough where a few people could come back to help clear them out?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something maybe Dark Times and I could have been better at, but again, we were dealing with, I know, Assault and Combined Team 2 for a lot of the match down there in the south.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really, really good feedback and good other stuff in your AAR as well. Arby's, last and certainly not least.
Yeah, I think first portion, I don't know exactly when it switched over, but it feels like half portion of the game, I think we did really good. Following through with call outs. Basically, once the recon got back there and got situated, though, it sort of went to hell in a handbasket when the enemy recon got back to us. So I know we talked over that a little bit earlier from various people about getting defenses set up and all that stuff. I know for my part, I was on guns less probably than even I could have been, just because I was trying to help defend the other guys even getting on guns, just because they're on us the whole time. But I mean, when we were up, I was feeling like it was good. I don't know. Obviously, I don't have a camera myself to see where my shots are landing based on where they're getting called for. But yeah, it was tough, but I think we did pretty good given the situation. So
Gotcha. Yeah, good feedback. All right, I know this AR has gone about an hour and 10-ish, so sorry about that. I want to keep them a little bit quicker than this, but I think we've had some really good, productive conversations. At this point, I'm just gonna open up the floor because other than comms being an issue for part of it, which we've talked about a couple times, there wasn't anything in particular that I noticed that hasn't already been brought up. So if anyone has any feedback, general things they'd like to say, floor is open to whoever wants to talk. Not, then
I do have one question, one thing
Yep.
to say. Given how restricted armor is on a Hurtgen, it felt like we just kept funneling to the same locations, right? Like the two tigers, and there's not a lot of space to move, and we're fighting in these sort of cramped circumstances. And if there are issues going on like near Jacob's barn, right, or like even north of that, it is kind of odd that is this just something that's done in comp where the tigers need to stay near each other, or is there a reason why we weren't kind of being used to kind of alleviate pressure in those areas? Because I hear you talking about how different infantry squads could have assisted each other. Bringing one guy over here might have just alleviated some pressure. When if we're fighting in these cramped spaces with two tigers that can't really go down a road because AT's on the other side of it and you're just gonna get popped when you turn it. Like, why not make the
So
call
you're
to
gonna
bring a
run into
tiger?
that same position, right? With there's AT behind every tree, except now you
Yeah.
don't have infantry support or a second tiger supporting
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I was gonna, I guess, touch on this is sort of the interplay between armor and infantry, and if there's two tigers chilling in one spot, we like we're a really good backstop.
Yeah.
And so if you can use that backstop to like push out and control the area around it, like once we stop seeing people, we'll probably move up a little.
Yeah,
But like if we
bounding.
just start
Yeah.
rolling down that road, we're fucking toast. Like and there's not much that even infantry can really do because like some dude's gonna pop out with a rocket and like now we need to stop and like get out and repair or back up and like we kind of lose all that ground. But like if there are two tigers or like even one tank just like chilling, you can kind of take that as a sign of like this area is more or less controlled and we don't need to commit the infantry. Or if like if you are having trouble advancing, just like call command chat, hey, can this tiger maybe move up 10-15 meters and like we'll take this ground a little bit slower, but we can take it.
Yeah, I think Hurtgen's a tough map as well for armor and infantry cohesion.
And yeah, that's definitely the other part of it is it's real tough. But like the sort of interplay between infantry and armor is something that has really only existed barely at ESPT since the infantry got their shit pushed in by 2 tigers on core at River Roarhouse.
Yeah.
So like this is this is sort of the ultimate cohesion of all of the team working together, and we'll get there. We're already pretty far ahead than
Yeah.
anywhere ESPT was.
100%. I agree.
Yeah, and I wasn't saying like a tiger should go into like BFE away from the infantry like on its own. I guess I'm just wondering, like I don't know, Gallivang, I don't know if you did. Ham's not here, and it might have been an issue with the VOIP too, right? Like Ham didn't know what was going on. But like at one point we were in a recon just doing a large flank up the north, and I don't know what was going on at that time at Jacob's Barn, but like we easily could have prioritized that over us trying to like get like up near Cal to find their back garrisons.
And
yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
not saying
that also goes to the sort of the thing that I took away from this is like in almost every other map, like yeah, you want as many heavies as you can. You want them working together so that like even if one goes down, like you're gonna get the revenge kill and like. But on this map in particular, like I feel like the other than just like farming infantry, the one time I wasn't in a tiger, I was in a recon car and like I killed maybe like 2 or 3 infantry, but I got their launch Gary at Jacobs and I got an AT gun also at Jacobs. So if I had been more flexible and just like, yo, we're gonna just be in a Lux, we're just gonna go up and down this road and just like blast stuff. That's something that I learned as maybe as being more flexible.
Yeah, and I think that's good. And Jimbo, to your point, that's something that I've really tried to prioritize is figuring out the best way to maneuver armor and infantry together. And we've talked about it. The armor subdivision channel has talked about it a lot. Trying to figure out how we can bound right with the tanks, like you said, as backboard. Infantry moves up 100 meters, secures that. Tanks move up, flip flop, over and over again. I think, like you said, it's just something we're going to get better at, something we're going to see what works, what doesn't work. And like you said, we're infinitely better at it already than Esprit de Corps, and we're only going to get better at it as time goes on and we practice it more.
And it's definitely a case by case, sort of sector by sector, something that decision you have to make on the fly. Because like sometimes the best thing infantry can do is just fuck off and go somewhere else. Because like the tank doesn't, like if we're just like looking through an open field, the fuck are infantry gonna do either for or against us? The answer is nothing. But if we're in a forest, like it's a different calculus that needs to be made.
Yep. All right. 6:21. Everyone go enjoy their Saturday nights. I'll hang out in this channel for the next 5-ish minutes if anyone has anything to say. But great job, everyone. 3-2 loss is nothing to hang your head on against a very experienced team with mercenaries on there as well.
Thanks, Draco. And thanks everyone else over there.
Thanks, Shark. Thanks, everybody. See you.
Yep. Have a great night, guys. Enjoy your weekend.